Hey guys, it's Al from Altruistic Channel, and I'm just sitting here finishing up some final touches on a series that I'm going to be doing on YouTube. Actually, originally it was going to be something that I was going to pitch for more towards a network, but when the person that I was working with kind of pulled out on it, I was kind of left with a decision to make, and I finally just was like, well, I'm not going to give up on something that's going to be really worthwhile. I mean, the history of religion and spirituality is kind of an important theme these days when a lot of people don't have any faith and have lost a lot of hope that we can even fix things as that are going on in the world at large. So I'm more dedicated to making this all happen. But in finishing up these little touches and finishing up the first initial episode, I was kind of stuck in a weird state where I couldn't necessarily decide finally on what I was going to say to introduce the series. Um, and so what I ended up really focusing on was more or less the intention. So during the holidays, it's a very common thing to encounter people who are very depressed or lonely because it can be very isolatory if you're not with family or if they've passed on like mine. And so when stuff like that happens, you even more so have to rely on your faith and something grander than yourself at times to kind of help you get through some of the hurdles that you're going to encounter in life. And the good news is that it gets a lot easier, like a lot easier, and you just find more creative things to do with that energy that is rewarding to the experience as opposed to detrimental, right? So, but in that process, I was thinking back to a little article that I'd written, and it had to do with like a man who was in a New Orleans bar and was seemingly exceedingly thrilled and happy beyond belief. And everybody in the bar was kind of just sitting in awe of him as they watched, because when he first came in, he was talking about how he was broke as hell and how he had all these problems and nothing was ever going his way and he could never catch his break. But yet there he was gleaming like a ball of sunshine, and everybody just was like bewildered. And so finally the bartender like got the hint and walked over and goes, sir, I hate to bother you, but I've got to ask you, like when you came in, you were talking about how life isn't all that good, and here you are in a new town. We don't know you very well, so we know you have no kin. Like what can I ask you why you're so happy? And the guy looks back at him and he goes, when I first got here, I was super depressed because I ended up here and not with my family, and so I was sitting in my motel room feeling sorry for myself. And the bartender interrupts and goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to bring that up. I didn't realize that something had happened to your family." And the man stopped him and he goes, "What do you mean it happened to my family?" And he goes, "Well, you said that you were missing them, and I assumed that something happened. Otherwise, you'd be with them." And so the man looks at him and he goes, "No, they're in Cancun. I just missed my flight. Like, that's the only reason is that I'm here is because we're snowed in, and so I have to wait till it lifts." And so the bartender felt a little sheepish. And he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I just assumed." And the guy goes, "No, no, no. What I was trying to tell you is when I was sitting in my motel room, I was really, really super depressed. And I was just listening to the radio, and they were playing Christmas music. And out of nowhere, they played a song that I haven't heard since I was a child, and it just brought tears to my eyes." And so the bartender goes, "Oh, I got it. Okay. So, well, I didn't mean to bring up a bad subject. And I'll let you go back to what you were doing." And the guy stops him and he goes, "Wait a minute. We seem to be having a communication issue here. So let me just break this down in a very kind and very gentle way. I'm doing great. Let me finish the story and it'll all make sense to you, I promise." And so the bartender goes, "Okay." And so at this point, the entire bar is pretty much listening to the conversation. And the guy goes, "So I'm listening to the radio and they're playing this Christmas music, and suddenly I hear a song I haven't heard since I was a child. And it brought tears to my eye because I realized in that moment that I was missing my own son, that was in Cancun, that the song that was playing had never been sung by my father the way that I sang it to my son." And so the bartender's like, "Oh, okay, so you were missing your kid, and then you realize," and so he's like, "Didn't that make you feel worse?" And the guy goes, "Actually, yeah, it did at first." Until I caught myself singing the song. And I realized I was replaying in my memory that I was singing the song to my son in my memory. And in doing that, I looked down, and for whatever reason, while singing the song in live time, like now, while I was in the motel room, I saw my own face and my son's face. And I realized that I was in the position of my father. And so in that moment, I was actually singing to myself, and kind of healing that memory of not having my dad haven't been able to do that because he died before it happened. And so before I knew it, like I felt like my soul fell out of my asshole. Like I was just like, oh my God, like, and tears just flopped like for like almost 30 minutes. I'm sitting there just playing the song over and over again. And I just couldn't believe it. God answered my prayers. God answered my prayers. And so the bartender goes, okay. And since there was a pause, he kind of took it like, okay, I'm going to walk away now because I'm completely confused. And the guy grabbed his hand. He goes, I guess I should explain. You see, I was missing my family so much that I kept asking God to make sure that we could make this right. That Dad's missing this particular event, and I never clarified it in Cancun. So what he did is God brought me the moment where I got to redeem and fix it for my dad not being there. So instead of me being there for my kid, it was my dad being there for me. And by me having this experience, I got to heal my soul. And the bartender just looked at him and just said, oh my God. Oh. And the guy's like, I've never felt more alive in my life. That's why I'm gleaming. In fact, I call my family and they're so excited. They were thrilled with the story. They couldn't believe it. They took it to mean that God wants us all here together. So they're flying back ASAP. So, I mean, like, it literally is the best day of my life. And the bartender, like, looks at him and he says that when he was looking into the eyes of this man, he saw the reflection of an 8-year-old, broken-hearted man or boy, now possessing the eyes of a man with full joy and gleam looking back at him. And I guess in the end, that is what the holidays are all about, is these little miracles that happen. It's just we need to adjust our perspective because everybody else was focused on the material side of things that it never dawned on them that someone could be happy by something that is not visible to the naked eye. And in that way, that is what spirituality is. And that's what faith does for the world at large. And so whenever you're in these moments of isolation or you're getting triggered, or triggered means like something that makes you have a negative reaction outwardly. Anything that happens like that, you start to understand things on a different level. And so that's one of the things about spirituality and faith is that it's more of an energetic thing. And that's one of the reasons I'm so in love with being a spiritual leader is because it gives somebody hope and faith in times when there should not be any by most accounts. And in the end, it's the underestimating of God that I find the most intriguing. It's because if you are an atheist, then you don't believe in God. That's great, but you believe in something. It's about having faith in something above yourself or something grander than your own design. Like, some of us can't even tie our shoes because our boobs are too big. Like, it's just one of those things. Like, you hope for everyone in the world to have faith in something that's bigger than they are. Because there are times when it looks like things are crap. And like, even like with me, there's struggles, but you have messages or you have a cause or you have a drive that outshines any possible problem. And so the problem becomes a moment where you can make an obstacle an opportunity. It's up to you and your perspective. But it reminded me of that story because of how it was so assumed that there was a negative reaction. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to say, like, especially because I realized it was Christmas morning. It's like, if you're having these moments where you're a little down, or you're having a moment where you think like the things just aren't going to turn around and, oh, why don't I catch my break? It's because maybe we just need to adjust our perspective. Because to me, I'm even more dead set to be successful in everything I do. But I've always been that way. The difference was that I never saw that God was helping me in ways that I couldn't see, because he's trying to help us develop skill sets that we don't already have. He's not going to give us everything in front of us if we can just grab it. It didn't work out well for Adam and Eve. They went ahead and got the fruit anyway. Although there's a whole different topic that we'll cover in the class and the little series I have going on YouTube for the religion and stuff, because there's a lot to that story. But that's neither here nor there for this story. The point is that sometimes you have to look a little bit further than what's in front of you to see what's really there. And so it's always important to connect with something outside of yourself. So if you're not a spiritual person, if you're someone who is agnostic, or if someone or atheist, or whatever it is that you are, or a science-based person, at least with science-based principality, you have the concept of believing in humanity's ability to explain things for itself, right? Like you have faith in humanity or in yourself. So there's that. But if you don't have any faith or you don't have anything to stand and lean on in times of need, then may I just offer you that exposing yourself to your own faith and your own principles of ethics and morals is a great way to start making your life a little bit better because your perspective will change. And so, like with this little series that I have going on, that's going to be starting either today or probably tomorrow because I'm going to, relax today. But tomorrow it'll start, and it gives you a nice way of kind of going the superfluous route and just kind of looking at the topics. The things are kind of a little bit redundant to some degree, but it gives you enough concept as to where this religion comes from or what they believe in and how it separates from the others. And so you can pick and choose in this day and age. You can pick and choose what's true for you, because in the end, what's true for me is not always true for you. And the moment that you agree to my truth, then it's your truth, type of thing. So, but this gives you a way to kind of make your own spiritual center. So if you don't want to call it spirituality, because like I'm not a label whore, so like I get it. Like I definitely have a thing against organized religion for the most part, only because of the way that it can be used as a divisive tool. In and of itself, religion is a wonderful thing. So don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm a spiritual person, but it's about the use of it and corrupting of God's word and using it for hate speech or divisive tactics. I can't deal with that. But having said that, I mean, my whole faith and my whole spiritual path has been of literally researching all of the different religions that we'll be talking about in the series, and picking what is true and what resonates with me and what doesn't resonate with me. And because I can always tell when something is a human introduction versus God's word. God's word's very specific, and he has a specific way of speaking, even in the New Testament. And so I'm able to pick and choose. But the point is, you can do that for yourself and not be attached to an organized structure. And then in doing that, you create a legacy for yourself that you can either leave for someone else in your own journey or you can walk your own path. But in the end, starting to at least look into things that make you happy and that make your vibration higher so that you start to bring in more wonderful things is a great way to begin. And sometimes it's just about changing your perspective. So I know this is kind of a long roundabout way of doing it, but it's a great introduction to what is at the core of all spirituality. And that is a belief in something bigger than yourself that is there like a star that shines really brightly in your eye line that you can focus on, that produces light, and you can just follow the light no matter how dark it gets. And that's your way out. That's your salvation. That's your solution. It's the same concept of an epiphany or an idea. So no matter how you come about it, the path is yours and it's yours of your making. And so, with the series, it's going to be great to kind of pick and choose what you like and so forth, but it's also honoring your ability to choose what you want to believe in by honoring the past of others and what they believed and how they got to where they are. Because in the end, all faith and all religion have truths. None of us can say that there's not truth in every single faith or religion. They're all based in truth. How it got corrupted or how it got changed is a matter of opinion. And so in the end, the point is that just choose to live life by choosing to believe in something outside of yourself, because there are moments that no matter who you are or no matter how wealthy you are, because people always make the assumption that because I'm not wealthy financially that I'm not as well off as the millionaires. And I'm like, well, I'm a spiritual leader and I've got answers that you will kill to know. So it's a perspective thing, because in the end it's a balance. It balances out in the wash. But it took my ability to kind of go for it and kind of like put myself in a situation where, because I was not religious, where I actually just took this first couple steps to believe in something bigger than me, because I wasn't getting it and my life wasn't going right. And if you're lonely or you're having a bad Christmas, then things aren't necessarily going the right way. You don't have to be spiritual, but you probably should just find a path that you can focus on. And I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just giving you some friendly brotherly advice. At the end of the day, I believe in the collective consciousness. So I believe that we as humanity, that's how I think, and that's what I believe in, is in bringing all of humanity up as far as entertaining the possibilities that others are right, the same way that you're right. There's multiple truths can be all true at once. They don't all have to be like against each other. And so when you start to expand your mind that way, you start to allow the world to grow. And so that's a great cause. And so if you're a science principled person, that's that's how you go in. If you're spiritual, that's how you go in. And so it's just finding whatever that gumption is that you need, because there's going to be times that you're going to get knocked down so bad that you have to believe in something outside of you, because otherwise you won't be able to get up. And there's no lying in the snow. You can't just sit there and pass away on us. Like, everybody goes through, and we're all going forward. And so it's just about finding that little zest of life, and that's kind of the message I wanted to bring. And so hopefully all of this makes sense to you. I wish you guys a merry, merry, merry Christmas and a great happy new year. The series will be coming out as soon as I get. I mean, it's a little bit harder for me because it's like me just doing all of it by myself, and especially like with money and resources and stuff. But it's working out. It's just it's taking a little bit longer than it would have otherwise. But in the end, it's the dedication I have to myself and that I have to you, and that we all like just band together as brothers and sisters and kind of just make it through this political hell and the world that we're in. I mean, we have to get through chaos to get to the peace. And so it's helpful in my peace of mind to know that we're helping each other. And that's all I want to say. Merry Christmas, guys. Happy holidays. And that's it for me. Bye.